Here's a shocker. The party that burns the American flag isn't a fan of Uncle Sam. According to the latest Fox News poll, 36% of Dems say they are proud of the country today, while 85% of Republicans are bleeding the red, white, and blue. And don't expect the Dems to suddenly cheer up. The Senate just passed Trump's one big, beautiful bill, sending it back to the House and one step closer to landing on Trump's desk. Cue the doofus who's calling for Americans to hit the streets.
We know that the modern-day robber barons have seized control over government. We know that they're exploiting hatred and grievance. And so I think it's really important for us to understand that if they pass this bill, the American people should engage in a general strike and say, no, we just can't wait for the next election cycle. The damage would already have been done.
Well, that's a boring house. Harold, I feel for Dems because if you've been told by universities and the media that America is a land of oppressors tormenting the oppressed, then patriotism would be merely supporting that ideology. And therefore, you cannot be patriotic, can you? Even to ask people to be patriotic in a poll is offensive. Right, Harold?
No, so I think I'm more patriotic than a guy who thinks, many people who think they're really, really patriotic. I love my country. I love everything that we're about. We have fallen short in many instances. We've exceeded in many instances. I watched this poll, and I take from it a little differently. I think after every election, the party who loses is always demoralized. It's always a little depressed. It's always searching for answers and can sometimes be desperate in how they do it.
How can you explain the Republicans then having a high rate of patriotism under Joe Biden? Make your answer succinct, Harold.
When Barack Obama trounced Republicans in 2 elections, the majority of Republicans who self-identified as Republicans couldn't even come to say that he was an American. Their desperation and demoralization manifested itself that way. What really bothers me in this poll is that Gen Zers across the board, and we did a thing on Gen Zers yesterday, they're more despondent and depressed and down on the country than any other group. Part of me thinks it's because both parties are hypocritical. We did a segment yesterday. Democrats cannot give President Trump credit for the border success, can't give him credit for knocking out or at least setting back the Iranian nuclear ambitions. That has to be on people's minds. And I got to tell you, when Republicans can't offer that something does not seem right when the president of the United States, whose name just happens to be Trump, is marketing and selling Bibles, Bitcoin, phones, and hotels, I think it makes everybody think that maybe everything isn't on the level. So I think we need to do better. I want to do my part in trying to do better. And I hope that Gen Zers who are down on their country can find at least something positive on the 4th of July to be proud of America about.
None of those things he's selling, he's compelling anyone to buy, unlike the Democrats who compel you to buy things, compel you to take shots, compel you to buy insurance. Joey?
I don't know. I love how Applebee's at least gives me a free dinner on Veterans Day. That's patriotism, isn't it? I don't know anything about patriotism. I don't buy a lot of red, white, and blue clothing all the time. I love my country enough to die for it. That's all I know. So I don't know if that's patriotic or not. I think most people don't understand patriotism. There was a time when a patriot is someone who was willing to give up everything they owned and had so that this country could exist, much less be prosperous. I think that most people live in a very comfortable situation. I mean, even poverty in this country comes with a standard of living that far surpasses the majority of the world. Doesn't mean that those same people in this country shouldn't aspire for more or have an opportunity for it. All I know is that if you want to know what patriotism is by the parties, look at poor people, because that's how I was raised. And the poor people in my life love this country. They're very patriotic. They don't blame this country for their financial status. They're looking for opportunity, and when they find it, they're grateful for it. And many of them find their way out of it. If the other party, and I would say this is very much a part of the Democrat message, is that if you're poor, it's not your fault, and you should blame this country for it and its oppressive nature and the system at hand that wants you to be patriotic and love your suffering. That's not patriotism. So I don't know if we're going to put a label on it. If we're talking about the two parties and how they voted on a poll, I don't think anybody that voted on that poll, or I don't think the majority of people that voted on that poll have a true sense of patriotism, and that's a real problem.
What do you say, Roseanne? I know that the left is going to be canceling certain July 4th celebrations because of immigration raids, but they didn't do that with Pride. I mean, we canceled nothing on Pride.
No, but that was a holiday that we celebrated. First of all, I want to say to Joey, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. That wasn't about me. I was being smart.
I know, but I want to just say thank you for your service. And I am going to celebrate July 4th so proudly, red, white, and blue all over the House. But ever since President Trump was elected, some on the Democratic side just could not digest it from the very first holiday that came, Thanksgiving. Some on The View were actually encouraging their viewers not to sit at the same table with their family if they voted for Trump. And then came Christmas, and some people on cable TV, Democrats, saying, don't sit with your family for Christmas. So now the next big holiday, here we are, the 4th of July. Of course, they're going to tell you not to. Don't listen to them. Don't miss this opportunity to be joyous, to spend time with your family. You know, I grew up in a household where everybody was a different religion, a different party affiliation. And we discussed and we hugged and kissed and we moved on and we ate lots of pasta and meatballs. And that's what I suggest that you do on this July 4th. Hot dogs and hamburgers.
Dana, how will P. Diddy celebrate July 4th? I can't help but think
Perhaps
of him.
with a bologna sandwich.
And a
in
bottle
his
of
cell.
baby oil.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's not a good combo.
No, it's
I don't
not.
Think.
It's not.
Was one thing that was interesting to me is something you brought up, was that the Republican pride in America doesn't change.
Yes, even under
It stays
opposing
even.
presidents.
And there's probably something to that. And it's one of the reasons I think that parental accountability and parental ability to see into what's happening in the schools is really important, because it's not just starting at the universities. You have like land acknowledgement things that are happening in elementary schools and things like that. In addition, I would say this: if you live in America, you won God's great lottery. Because the question is, are you proud of your country compared to what? One of the things that all these liberals are upset about is that these illegal immigrants would be sent to third-party countries. Terrible places. They don't want them to have to go to the terrible places. Why do you think that people wanted to come here in the first place? I think the question should be, it deserves a follow-up as compared to what? My last thing is, they think that they would rather go to Europe. Right? Okay, well, do you want to be taxed by 60% and live in Northern Europe? Or do you want to live in Spain, where you get taxed a lot and you have 21% youth unemployment? They have such a dismal situation in terms of entrepreneurship that they don't have any ability to pay for their NATO dues. And now you also have a situation where all of Europe wants to tax American companies extra for digital taxes because they have no innovation of their own. So I would just ask them, as compared to what? Like, where would you actually rather be?
It's always a half opinion. They never think of the other half. Up next, President Trump hammers Mamdani, the commie.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.